Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Performance Made Simple. It's my absolute pleasure to present this as a topic today for you to ponder, reflect, and implement any parts that are relevant for you, your workplace, and your business. So today we'll be covering the following elements: performance management, performance made simple, your superpower, and touching on perception. So what words do you associate with performance management? Performance management is often seen as a reactive way by managers dealing with problems after they've arisen. While this is part of it, a leader who approaches their role in a more proactive way by continually talking and discussing performance will actually have fewer problems to deal with. It's the difference between prevention and cure. The research is clear. Praise is good for the bottom line. So why are so many new and experienced leaders not actually making praise a priority? Some might think annual performance reviews are the only time for it. Others may worry that it might seem unprofessional or that people will get overconfident and complacent. It isn't, and they won't. And then, of course, there's the excuses we can get caught up in. I'm too busy. You're not. Praise does not have to be a big production, but it is a big deal to the receiver. And it can and should take place in the regular interactions you have with people. Look for something to praise in every employee each week. Put it on your to-do list if that will help. Someone else is taking care of it? Never make that assumption, because someone else might actually be assuming you're doing it. In fact, take it upon yourself to make sure you're regularly informing everyone else, in particular senior management, about an individual's accomplishments and outstanding performance. They know they're appreciated. They really don't know unless you tell them. And your staff need to actually hear it from you. It's just as important to offer appropriate praise, even when someone's delivered mixed or disappointing results in an assignment, because it's an opportunity to coach the individual for improvement. Chances are the person tried very hard. Their effort represents an opportunity for you to deliver authentic praise. If it was important to them, they'd say something. Most people won't directly ask or hint for your praise. Don't punish shy employees by ignoring their efforts. Find out how individuals prefer to be recognised. Some don't like being the centre of attention in meetings or large office communications. Some people prefer individual conversations to group emails. I have more important things to worry about. You actually must make praise important to yourself, because it certainly is important to your employees. And don't just praise the results. You'll miss mentioning the valuable work that's been done to actually achieve them. Keep these three things in front of mind when you recognise others: their efforts, their contributions, and their results. Because to work at their best, people need to understand and accept the standards of performance required for their jobs. Awareness of how they're performing in relation to those standards, the actual ability to achieve the standards with time, resources, and the right training, and to feel satisfied both with themselves and their job. Putting these tips into action can lead to better workplace discussions and a healthier office environment. As a manager, giving and receiving feedback is critical. Managers play an important role in fostering a productive, inclusive, and engaging work culture. To be really great at feedback, you have to give it, get it, and encourage it. All of those things feel weird to do at first, but there's some easy things you can do to make them feel much more natural. unfortunately, management doesn't come naturally for many. Gallup research suggests only 1 in 10 people possess the natural talent to be a great manager. Another 2 in 10 can become effective managers with coaching and development. Sometimes people get promoted to manager because they've worked at a company for many years, or they were successful as an individual contributor, such as a salesperson, and then promoted. But new jobs typically require a different set of skills, and managers need to learn these tools. Giving effective feedback is a wonderful tool to engage and develop your team for greater success. So these 3 tips are going to help you reach that goal. Make feedback part of your culture rather than an infrequent big event. Feedback can be very effective when given in small doses on a continuous basis, such as a weekly call, meeting, presentation. And managers can create a culture where feedback's used as a positive mechanism to make people aware of what's working and what's not, and to gently adjust the behaviours as needed. It makes no sense to wait 6 months to let someone know they did something well, or they need to focus on a specific area. We actually need to shift our perception that feedback is a negative event to one where it's normal and a frequent part of growth. And share feedback through a strengths lens. Gallup research shows that people who use their strengths every day are 6 times more likely to be engaged on the job. Managers can increase engagement and productivity simply by focusing on strengths as opposed to pointing out weaknesses or ignoring employees. And often, our greatest strengths may be misinterpreted or used ineffectively. So instead of letting someone know they're impatient, shift the focus and help them see how their natural strength to take action can be a catalyst for the team and is very valuable, except when they forge ahead without pausing to consider the key issues and gain buy-in. And be specific and highlight excellence. Too many managers are vague in their feedback or use feedback to highlight weaknesses. Direct reports are much more receptive to feedback if you can be specific and help them understand how they actually delivered excellence. When possible, try these small shifts in giving feedback about strengths. Shift from saying great job in the meeting to great job finding areas of agreement, bringing the group together to help us have a productive meeting. Shift from saying thanks for pulling together the analysis to thanks for pulling together the analysis and highlighting the key pieces of data that helped us decide to move forward with the deal. So let's now look at performance made simple. We've already touched on a lot of these areas. We need to set expectations, invite commitment, measure progress, provide feedback, link it to consequences, and always evaluating the effectiveness. So, setting expectations. The success of an organisation comes down to how well it organises its members to focus on and work towards the same purpose. Staff need expectations and goals set, the easier it is for people, and the less time is wasted for clarifying what's really expected. So lead by example. Demonstrate your belief that goal setting is worthwhile by actually taking part yourself. Then throughout the year, keep sharing your success stories as well as your obstacles and challenges. As employees see that goals are an ongoing part of their working life, their attitude may become more of respect rather than seeing it as a tick box activity. And invite commitment. Just because your employees know what to do doesn't actually mean they'll do it. After goals and expectations are set, employees need to actually commit to achieving them. They're more likely to do this when they understand 2 things: how the goals will benefit them personally and how the goals are going to move the organisation forward. Once this connection is made, they're more likely to buy into the goals and actually welcome you to holding them accountable for the results. And always, we need to measure our progress. Information is needed to hold people accountable, to measure the ongoing performance and gauge whether they're meeting, exceeding, or not quite meeting the expectations that are set. And goals can be measured when they're quantified. Sales goals are often measured with revenue, customer lifetime value, customer satisfaction. Compliance, reducing the number of incidents. And business strategies can be measured with business metrics such as return on investment, brand awareness, customer satisfaction, margins, and costs. And of course, always providing feedback. Feedback won't solve problems by itself, but it's going to open the door for problem-solving discussions and follow-up actions. Staff need feedback to do a good job and improve in areas where performance may be falling short of expectations. Most of the time, giving objective behavioural feedback is all it takes. So setting expectations followed by quality feedback is the backbone of holding someone accountable for results. And we need to link it to consequences. Sometimes staff need a little external motivation to live up to their commitments. When they struggle to reach their goals, they can be helped by administering appropriate consequences. It might be changing employees' duties, having a performance discussion, identifying if training is required, providing a mentor or a coach, issuing a first warning, or actually meeting to set some new goals. And then evaluating effectiveness. Review how the process has been handled and put a systematic and consistent method in place. And you'll find when people are held accountable for the work that must get done, it does get done. And as a leader and a manager, it's really important to remember, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And this links in to your superpower. Because being great at relationships is actually your secret superpower. There's no area in your life where relationships do not matter. There's no area in your life where your ability to relate to others does not matter. And there's no area in your life where others' ability to relate to you does not matter. Intimate relationships, siblings relationships, friends, colleagues, the person you buy your coffee from, your Uber driver, the relationship you have with your pets. We're actually in relationship with everything all of the time. So being great at relationships is actually your superpower, because the way you relate to things impacts everything. There's your relationship with money, your relationship with your health, your relationship with your career, your sense of self-worth, your confidence, and your circumstances. Think about the word relationships. Relationships are about the way we interact with all things. They're about the way we react with all things, and they're about the way we feel about all things. Our ability to be relatable, the relationships we have with everything really, really, really matter. They are bigger than what we realize. The more we can see that, perhaps the more curious we'll become about how we can do it better. Because we're all looking for the same thing. All humans want to feel supported. We want to feel valued. We want to know that we matter. We want to know we have something to contribute. We want to feel heard, and we want to know someone has our back. We want to feel a part of all things. We actually do better when we feel connected. So as a leader and a manager, we don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. And this is where at times we have to stop, we have to pause, and we have to consider. Up on the screen, you'll see an image at the moment. When you look at this image, what do you see? And you're welcome to put things into the chat box, because this is where we'll learn how different people see things differently. How do you think others would see this picture? What would a woodchopper see? The size of the trees, the age of the trees, the type of wood of the trees, how they'll fall when they're chopped. Can a truck get access to this spot? Maybe even income and revenue. What about a botanist, someone who studies plants? What would they be seeing looking at this image? The moisture level, the types of plants, the layers of the plants, the sunshine, the wind, the rain, the climate, the shade. What about a photographer? The colours, the textures, the shade, the light, maybe even the emotion there. Do you see? We all see things differently, even though we're all looking at the same image. Reminds me of a line by the French film director Jean Renoir. The hell of life is that everyone has their reasons. So as a leader and a manager, it's important to remind ourselves of this when we meet with staff whose behaviour we might find frustrating, maddening, or confusing. We often leap to assumptions about them. We might assume they lack understanding. We might assume they're acting out of spite. We might make a whole host of assumptions which justify our own perspective and are typically unempathetic. What we fail to do is stop and ask ourselves, what is that person's reason? Because very rarely do we actually encounter someone who's deliberately going out of their way to muck things up and make things difficult for us. It's much more often the case when we find ourselves in conflict. It's about misunderstanding, missed expectations, and incorrect assumptions. We need to slow down, examine the assumptions we're making, and develop a theory of mind. What's governing this other person? What are their beliefs and assumptions? And what are their goals? It's also important to bear in mind that all behaviour is adaptive. So when we run into behaviour we find frustrating, confusing, it may actually be important to ask ourselves, what are they adapting to? And as a leader, it's really important to ask, are they adapting to me? Am I in some way creating the conditions where they feel they need to adapt to? Is there something that I can do to change how I'm showing up and influence the environment in the way this person is operating? Because just because you're right does not always mean the other person is wrong. Perhaps we just haven't yet seen it from their side. Which leads us to a great line by the author Stephen Covey from The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Seek first to understand and then be understood. Communication is one of the most important skills in life. So this is where we have to ask why feedback is important for our company culture. According to Gallup research, 4 out of 10 workers are actively disengaged when they receive little or no feedback from their managers. And when your staff are engaged, productivity is higher, turnover is lower, and your profits are positively correlated. As you can guess, there's a bit of a disconnect when it comes to feedback. We know we have to give and receive it, but at times we prefer to procrastinate to avoid hurting people's feelings. Delivering criticism can feel conflicting in its nature, because instead of a physical altercation, the act can almost seem like an attack on someone's sense of self. But if we create a culture of feed forward, if our staff understand that constructive criticism is part of what happens in our team, it's going to accelerate the individuals, the team, and the business forward. It makes it easier to give and receive. So criticism and transparency have to be practiced by leadership in order for it to take hold in the culture. As I've said, not just giving it, receiving it as well. And the act doesn't have to be an awkward barrage of negative comments. You can encourage others to share their opinions with some simple questions. What are your initial thoughts on this? Based on your experience, what is it that you think we should do? What can we do next? How would you handle this? From opinion sharing, your staff can start having healthy discussions about possible ideas, next decisions, and practice the art of sharing their feedback, cultivating a higher sense of psychological safety in the workplace. So evolutionary psychologists explain that there's an innate need to affiliate and form social bonds that's literally been wired into our biology. When we make positive social connections, the pleasure-inducing hormone oxytocin is released into our bloodstream, immediately reducing anxiety, improving concentration and focus. Each social connection bolsters our cardiovascular and immune systems. So the more connections we make over time, the better we function. Positive emotions actually flood our brains with dopamine and serotonin chemicals that make us feel good and dial up the learning centers in our brain. We can organize new information, keep information in the brain longer, make and sustain more neural connections, think more quickly and creatively. We're more skilled at complex analysis and problem solving, and we can see and invent new ways of doing things. Studies show each positive interaction employees have during the course of the workday actually helps return the cardiovascular system back to resting levels. And over the long haul, employees with more of these interactions become protected from the negative impacts of job strain. Each connection lowers cortisol, the hormone related to stress, which helps employees recover faster from work-related stress and makes them better prepared to handle it in the future. Studies have also found that people with strong relationships are less likely to perceive situations as stressful in the first place. So in essence, investing in social connections actually means we're going to find it easier to interpret adversity as a path to growth and opportunity. And when we do experience stress, we're going to bounce back from it faster and be better protected against the long-term negative effects. The world of work, the ability to manage stress, both physically and psychologically, is a significant competitive advantage. In the workplace, there's a lot going on and happening constantly. I'm just going to share a story. It's a story of two students at Harvard, Amanda and Brittany. They were roommates. Both had spirited personalities and both made friends quickly and effortlessly. As exams approached, their paths began to diverge. And as the pressure mounted, Amanda found herself secluded in a cubicle in the library and spent most of her days and nights there. She started skipping study breaks. She didn't have time for frivolous activities like sharing snacks and stories with her classmates. Meanwhile, Brittany was flourishing. She wasn't oblivious to the challenges or the pressures, and she wasn't working any less hard than Amanda. But instead of quarantining herself in a cubicle, she was organising study groups, and she got groups of friends together. Each student summarised a week's readings, and they met for lunch a few times a week to share their work. The group made time for small talk and even random activities like an Oreo eating contest. At the end, One student was highly stressed. The other was happy and well adjusted. We all have choices. And many business leaders feel the road to success is one they have to travel alone. It's not the case. The most successful people know, even in a competitive environment, we're more equipped to handle challenges and obstacles when we pool the resources of those around us and capitalize on even the smallest moments we spend interacting with others. Every time Brittany had lunch or a study session with her friends, she wasn't just having a good time. She was decreasing her stress levels, priming her brain for high performance, and capitalizing on the ideas, energy, and motivation of the social support network. While Amanda was diverging from her network and floundering as a result, Brittany was investing in something that continually paid dividends. So just as social support is a prescription for happiness and an antidote to stress, it's a prime contributor of achievement in the workplace. So engage and connect with your team. Make the workplace a safe place, give feedback regularly, and the benefits will pay dividends for everyone involved. We become more successful when we are happier and more positive. Doctors put in a positive mood before making a diagnosis show almost 3 times more intelligence and creativity than doctors in a neutral state, and they diagnose 19% faster. Optimistic salespeople outsell pessimistic salespeople by 56%. And students primed to feel happy before a math test outperform their peers. As a leader in business, care about your people and they will care about you. Create a team where they communicate, collaborate, and challenge you and each other. Make sure your team can be their unique self in the workplace. Establish a culture where you feel comfortable to give feedback, both positive and negative often. Be authentic as a leader and be curious as a leader. Curiosity means you discover, you don't judge. You help your team learn and grow and challenge each other. Compassionate leadership isn't soft. Evidence indicates that people thrive and are more productive and innovative in a psychologically safe workplace. So be a compassionate leader. You'll have better collaboration. It enhances loyalty, it creates stronger connection, and it amplifies trust. Ask your staff, what would improve your day? What would make your job less frustrating? Be clear on your values and live your values every day. They are going to be challenged at times. The soft stuff is the hard stuff. People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. People will always remember how you made them feel. So make the biggest impact you can on those around you. People want to work in an organisation where they're valued. People want to work in an organisation where they matter. And people want to work in an organisation where they can be their best self to flourish. When your staff are at their best, the organisation is at its best. When you prioritise people, everything else falls into place. So I'd like you to identify your action steps from today. What small changes are you going to do starting from today? Just pick one and do that. Once that feels natural, then pick something else. Test and measure, experiment and learn. And I'd like to thank the Dandenong Chamber of Commerce for offering me the opportunity today to deliver this topic. It's a topic I'm passionate about because it's the small things that can make a big difference. So now I'm going to stop sharing the screen and open it up for any questions that anyone may have around this topic. Thank you.
Thanks, Michele.
My pleasure, Tamara. I was just going to say, I guess everyone's muted at the moment.
Yep. If anyone's got any questions, if you want to take yourself off mute, you can, but I might just unmute everyone as well. Bear with me. I was just saying to Michele earlier, it's been a good probably 2 months since we've had a webinar, so I think I'm a little rusty.
If anyone wants to put any questions, even in the chat box, they're welcome as well.
Does that work? No. Oh, if no one's got any questions, I might ask one.
Thank you, Tamara.
Can you explain, Michele, a little bit more what you meant about people's strengths?
Absolutely. It's a fascinating thing that, focusing on people's strengths actually energizes people. Strengths are usually things that come very natural to us and things we love doing. So when we're working in our strengths, we're energized. When we're focused on our weaknesses, often it can drain us. Things take longer, things feel harder. And one of the real ways to look at this is taking it to a sporting analogy. If someone is a good runner and a good athlete, if we're focusing on their strengths, we're going to work on their running ability. But if we're going to focus on their weaknesses, we might be saying to them, hey, you're really good at sport, but I've noticed you're not so good at swimming or tennis or lawn bowls. So I want you to spend a bit of time there. Whereas we know from sport, if someone is a good athlete, then we keep working on their skills to develop them to be a better athlete. And it energizes them, it makes them enthusiastic. If we're going to make an athlete focus on swimming, it's not natural. So when you're focusing on someone's strengths, you're really upping the ante. And the beautiful part about this is in a team, that can have a ripple effect. And so sometimes as a leader and manager, it's about looking at what's the task and the outcome from this project, who has what strengths, and let's get them working on that. And then at times, other members of the team can learn through observation of their teammates, or there's that opportunity as well to coach and mentor each other. So we have that ripple effect where we all grow together.
Great analogy too.
I love the sporting analogy because I think it just helps us understand the concept a bit more.
Definitely. Ted had one that he popped in the chat here. So demonstrating your superpower, building relationships is much more difficult remotely. Some tips. Again,
it's at times actually you as the leader and manager not thinking you have all the answers, but putting it out to your team and talking about their well-being and how important it is and how can we be supporting each other as a team. Now, saying that, there's lots of things happening. Some teams are doing daily check-ins with each other. Some teams might be using these social media apps like WhatsApp to put some fun, humorous things. Some teams are dedicating at least one catch-up a week to specifically non-work chat. And some are doing a Zoom meeting where they're doing games. And I know with my team, we've done Pictionary, for example, online, because there's lots of unusual things. Or for a while there, we had a topic, what's your favorite song or different things like that. So talk with your team, get them collaborating, because that's one of the things a team loves is their leader asking them how to work best. When you do that, the ownership and the buy-in happens as well. So there's a beautiful natural element that comes from it. I hope that's helped, Ted.
Just one other question with regards to your poll on managers, like 1 in 10 has the ability to be a great manager. 2 in 10 have the ability to learn to be a good manager. What do you do with the other 7?
With the others, yeah, a really, really good question. It's coaching, it's mentoring, it's training, and it's that feedback element from their manager as well. And really, there's a big difference at times too between being a leader and a manager. And leaders are people who are vulnerable, whereas managers are often people who think they have to have all the answers. And so when a manager starts to be a little bit more vulnerable, open, and engage the team, and especially we're in such a change environment at the moment, understanding and saying to the team, I don't have the answers. This could be a bit messy, or this might be really magical, but let's work together on how this works. And we're almost moving into another new interesting phase when we get out of lockdown, because there can be a resistance even to what was our team beforehand. And let's talk about how can we use this opportunity to improve our team. What can we keep doing? What do we need to stop doing? And what do we need to start doing to really support, collaborate, and move forward as a group?
Does anyone else have any other questions for Michele, or any other clarifications they need? No, I'll take everyone's silence as a no.
Can I ask one more? You were sort of saying compassionate leadership's not soft. What do you mean by that?
So again, I'll refer to the old-fashioned leadership style, which was really when we worked in more of a production type environment, where it was really talk and tell and direct. Whereas nowadays, leaders need to have that element of empathy and vulnerability to engage and connect with their team. You employed staff because of their skills. Let them shine. So asking questions, and it's asking the right questions. So I was just reading a study last night, and I've forgotten which airline company, but they were asking the question, how can we minimize losing customers' baggage? But when they changed the question to, how can our customer experience be better? They actually solved the baggage problem. But it's putting it out there and getting people's ideas. So often people have great ideas, but because of the culture, they don't share. And so that's why we need to have a psychologically safe environment. And that starts through the giving and receiving of feedback, because a manager may ask for my feedback, but if I'm not feeling safe, I go into risk management mode of myself, and I'll give them the answers they want to hear rather than the answers they need to hear. And so when a leader has that compassion happening, the environment becomes safe, people can be their natural self, which allows them to flourish. And as a whole, the team lifts and the leader ends up flourishing because of the team.
Very good.
Great.
Thank
Anyone
you.
else got any questions for Michele? No, I think everyone's good. So we'll wrap up today's session. So thank you very much for Michele for running this for the Chamber. Very much appreciated. And we hope that you all enjoyed the content. So as I said earlier, this will be on our YouTube channel, and we'll be also sending out a PDF version of it as well. But if you've got any questions, or if you'd like to run a webinar or join the Chamber, please get in contact. My email address will be on the email that goes out to everyone along with Michele's. So that's all for today. And thank you very much for coming. And thank you again to Michele.
Thanks so much for the opportunity. I appreciate that. Everyone, stay safe, stay well, and thank you so much for dialing in today.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Take
Michele.
care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, the Chamber.